There comes a moment in life when the relationship between parents and their children begins to evolve in ways that feel unfamiliar, sometimes painful. For years, often decades, you pour your heart, your time, your energy into raising your children. You guide them through their earliest steps, teach them right from wrong, stand by them through their challenges, and make sacrifices without thinking twice, because love drives you. But as time goes on and the roles begin to change, you might find yourself facing a difficult truth. The people you once cradled in your arms may now seem to be pushing you aside, not listening to your words as they once did, disregarding your perspective, or, in the worst moments, making you feel small, unwanted, or like a burden they have to manage. This shift doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, subtle. It starts with a dismissive tone, a decision made without consulting you, a lack of interest in your thoughts, and before long, you realize you're no longer the respected authority, the nurturer, or even the cherished parent in their eyes. You've become an afterthought. This hurts in ways that are hard to express. You might find yourself consumed by confusion or frustration, feeling tempted to remind your children of every sleepless night, every financial sacrifice, every moment you put them ahead of yourself. You may want to scream, to plead, to demand the respect that seems to have quietly disappeared. But here's the painful truth. Demanding respect rarely results in receiving it. When emotions run high, anger only drives a deeper wedge. Instead of healing, it leads to more pain, more misunderstanding. The key to regaining your rightful place as a respected figure in your children's lives isn't found in confrontation. It's found in transformation, beginning within yourself. There are specific steps you can take. Subtle yet powerful changes in how you carry yourself and how you respond to being mistreated that can completely shift the dynamic between you and your children. These changes are not about control or manipulation. They are about reclaiming your dignity, your voice, and your inner strength. And if you stay with me through this, you'll learn 6 deeply impactful actions that can help restore respect, not through force, but through presence and quiet strength. The first step in this journey is learning to stop chasing your children's approval. It's a natural instinct as a parent to want to be loved, valued, and appreciated by the children you've given so much to. As time passes and your role in their lives becomes less about guidance and more about presence, you might find yourself trying a bit too hard to remain relevant, helpful, or liked. You go out of your way to accommodate their schedules. You agree when you really want to disagree. And you make endless compromises, hoping that your sacrifices will earn their appreciation. But ironically, the more you give in to gain approval, the more your value in their eyes diminishes. This isn't because your children are heartless, but because human nature tends to take for granted what is always available, always agreeable, always yielding. Respect doesn't come from being a doormat. It comes from standing tall. Consider the story of Margaret, a woman who spent her life working hard, raising her children with strength and pride. As she aged, she gradually stopped asserting herself. She let her children take over decision-making, allowed them to speak to her in condescending tones, and never protested when her opinions were disregarded. She believed she was keeping the family peace, maintaining harmony, but in reality, she was slowly teaching her children that her voice no longer mattered. She didn't lose their respect overnight. It was chipped away every time she silenced herself, every time she let her dignity take a back seat. To reclaim respect, the first and most vital shift is internal. Stop seeking validation from your children. Recognize your worth without needing them to echo it. Learn to say no without guilt. Speak your mind with calm clarity, even if it's not what they want to hear. Begin treating your own needs and time as valuable, because only then will others follow suit. Respect starts with self-respect, and when your children see that you are no longer desperate for their approval, they'll begin to view you through a different lens, one shaped not by dependency, but by quiet power. The second crucial step is to stop arguing and start leading by example. When you're faced with disrespect, the natural urge is to confront it directly, to argue your case, to remind your children of your sacrifices, your age, your wisdom. But arguing, especially when emotions are high, often leads nowhere. It might make you feel momentarily heard, but rarely does it inspire the change you're looking for. Think back to your own experiences. Has anyone ever truly earned your respect by shouting at you or insisting you owed them something? Probably not. Respect isn't won through debate. It's cultivated through presence, through how you carry yourself, through the strength you display in silence. Take the story of Frank, a retired teacher whose commanding presence once led a classroom with ease. Yet at home, his adult children barely listened to him. They mocked his input, talked over him, and dismissed his concerns. At first, Frank tried to assert his authority with loud insistence, but the more he pushed, the more resistance he met. Then he decided to stop arguing altogether. Instead, he focused on how he carried himself. He became calm, confident, not seeking approval, but grounded in who he was. When he spoke, he chose his words carefully. He didn't react emotionally to disrespect. He modeled grace, restraint, and quiet authority. Over time, his children began to listen, not because he demanded it, but because he commanded it with his behavior. The lesson is simple yet profound. Don't try to force your children to see your value. Let your strength, your calm, and your presence do the talking. Lead with dignity, not with desperation. When you meet disrespect not with defensiveness, but with composure, it shifts the power dynamic. You are no longer pleading for recognition. You are embodying it. The third transformative step is to withdraw your emotional dependence on your children. As a parent, your love for your children is deep and unconditional. But that same love can lead you to place your emotional well-being in their hands. You might find yourself waiting anxiously for their calls, measuring your worth by their attention, feeling devastated when they don't visit or show appreciation. But the truth is, emotional dependence doesn't breed respect, it breeds pressure. And pressure, especially on adult children managing their own lives, often turns into avoidance. They begin to see your presence not as a blessing, but as a burden. They stop feeling affection and start feeling guilt. Helen, a devoted mother, gave everything to her children. But when they grew older and got busy with their own families and careers, she found herself constantly reaching out. She called daily, reminded them of how much she missed them, and expressed sadness over how infrequently they visited. Instead of drawing them closer, it created distance. They felt overwhelmed. Then Helen made a conscious choice to stop waiting. She started investing in herself again, joining a local art group, taking morning walks, reconnecting with old friends. Her life became richer, fuller, more independent. And her children noticed. They began reaching out more, not out of guilt, but curiosity and genuine desire. The paradox is powerful. The more you rely on yourself for emotional fulfillment, the more others are drawn to you. Respect blossoms when you show that your happiness doesn't hinge on anyone else's actions. When you become a source of your own joy, others gravitate toward your light. The fourth action is learning to set boundaries and enforce them. Often, the decline in parental respect stems not from malice, but from permissiveness. If you tolerate being interrupted, dismissed, or criticized without consequence, your children will internalize those behaviors as acceptable. You don't need to create conflict or cut ties, but you do need to clearly define what behaviors you will no longer tolerate. Boundaries are not walls. They are doors with rules for entry. They say, "I welcome you, but only if you come with respect." Consider Robert, a former business owner who once managed hundreds with clarity and poise. At home, though, his adult children treated him with disregard. He'd be interrupted mid-sentence, laughed at for his views, and criticized for his lifestyle. Initially, he let it slide, believing it wasn't worth the trouble. But over time, those small allowances grew into a pattern of disrespect. Finally, Robert made a change. When his son interrupted him, he simply said, "Please speak when you're ready to listen." When his daughter dismissed his opinion, he replied, "You don't have to agree, but you do have to speak to me with respect." He didn't yell. He didn't guilt trip. He stated his boundaries calmly, and more importantly, he enforced them. When they violated them, he limited contact until they chose to interact respectfully. Slowly but surely, they adjusted their behavior. Boundaries only work if you uphold them. If you bend them under pressure, they lose their meaning. But when you stand firm, you teach others how to treat you, not through punishment, but through consistent self-respect. The fifth step is to stop giving when there is no appreciation. Many parents have a giving nature. It's hardwired. You offer help, money, time, advice, expecting it will be met with gratitude. But when it isn't, when your efforts are met with entitlement, it creates a dangerous pattern. The more you give without appreciation, the more your generosity is devalued. Your kindness becomes expected, not cherished. George, a father who consistently supported his adult children financially and emotionally, found himself drained. Despite all he did, they seldom said thank you. They asked for more, expected more, and rarely reciprocated. But when George faced a health crisis and needed their help, they were suddenly unavailable. That's when he realized something needed to change. He stopped offering unsolicited help. He started saying no when it didn't suit him. And what followed was difficult at first: complaints, confusion, even resentment. But over time, something shifted. His children began to appreciate the help he did offer. They stopped assuming it. They started saying thank you again. The truth is, generosity is a gift, not a duty. And when you give from a place of strength, with clear boundaries and expectations, your kindness retains its value. You teach others not to take you for granted, not through withdrawal of love, but through the wise distribution of your energy and time. Finally, the sixth and perhaps most empowering step is to build a life that is rich, meaningful, and fulfilling outside of your children. Many parents, especially after retirement or widowhood, unintentionally center their lives around their children. They look to them for conversation, purpose, and connection. But this dependency can be suffocating for both parties. It creates an imbalance where one person gives and waits, and the other feels overwhelmed and pressured. Eleanor, a widowed mother, fell into this trap. After losing her husband, she leaned heavily on her children. She called frequently, visited uninvited, gave advice that wasn't requested, and tried to fill the emotional void with their attention. Rather than feeling closer, her children pulled back. They visited less, avoided long conversations, and tension grew. One day, Eleanor decided to stop chasing their attention. She joined a local library group, began volunteering, and even went on a group trip to the coast. Her life began to glow with new energy. Her children, seeing this change, became curious. They called more. They respected her time. They looked at her not as someone clinging to them, but as someone thriving on her own. This shift wasn't about guilt, it was about admiration. People are drawn to those who radiate joy, who live fully, who continue to grow. When your life is full, your children will no longer see you as someone who needs them, but as someone they are proud to know and respect deeply. In conclusion, respect from your children is not something you can command or coerce. It is something you earn anew by how you carry yourself in this new season of life. If you find yourself feeling disrespected, overlooked, or undervalued, don't waste your time trying to force change with anger or confrontation. Instead, turn inward. Begin by letting go of the need for approval and reclaiming your voice. Led by example, showing strength not through volume but through grace. Withdraw your emotional dependence and cultivate your inner world. Set and enforce clear boundaries that protect your peace. Give only where there is gratitude, and hold your generosity as a sacred offering, not an obligation. And most importantly, build a life that shines with meaning, purpose, and joy, independent of anyone else's validation. When your children see you as someone who lives with strength, clarity, and purpose, they will feel that shift. They will be drawn to your presence, not out of guilt or duty, but out of genuine respect and admiration. And that is the kind of respect that lasts, not because it was demanded, but because it was truly earned. Thank you for joining us today. We'd love to hear from you. Share in the comments one insight that resonated with you most and how you plan to implement it in your life. Your stories and reflections inspire us deeply. If you found this message helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. It helps us continue bringing meaningful content to those who need it most. Until next time, remember, your worth is not diminished by others' treatment of you. It is reclaimed by how you choose to treat yourself.